Hello, America. Welcome to the Constitution Study. My name is Paul Engel. Let me wish you a happy New Year's Eve. That's right. This is the last scheduled broadcast of the Constitution Study, where we read and study the Constitution and teach the rising generation to be free. I hope your 2018 was as exciting as mine was. I have some announcements for 2019 that I hope you'll find as interesting as well. But first, if you want to find out, first thing I want to do is welcome you. Thank you. Thank you for coming here. If this is your first time, I am glad you could join me. I hope you find it worthwhile. I have an interesting episode today, not just the announcements. I have a real interesting thought experiment that we're going to go through. If you're returning, thank you. We're getting a lot more returning people. We're getting a lot more people on the Facebook page, still a bit on the website, a bit on the podcast. We did really good numbers so far in November. Things are looking good in December. And it's because people keep coming back. I'm hoping you're coming back because you're finding this interesting, engaging, and worth your time and all of those things. I'm happy you're here. I'm going to ask you to head over to the website, constitutionstudy.com, find out more, read the articles, find other podcast episodes. Most of all, ask questions. I'm really looking for questions for a couple of reasons. This idea of opening ourselves up by asking questions and getting them answered. I've seen a lot of traction lately on the Facebook site. People who are asking questions and asking, generally they're asking about constitutional questions, but I'm also getting a lot of people asking me specifically, which is really kind of cool and kind of leads me into my first announcement. I have been doing some interviews up on Facebook through live broadcasts. I've been asked to, and I've agreed to do a regular Facebook live broadcast. We'll be starting in January. It'll start out as a once a month broadcast. And what I plan to do is take the audio of that broadcast and use it as one of my podcast episodes that month. So if you can't follow the Facebook live stream, if you can't be there live, there will be recordings available on Facebook and other platforms. I'm still working out some of the details. You can also listen to the audio on this podcast. If you can't get to the Facebook page, whatever reason you don't feel like supporting Mark Zuckerberg, you can still get a copy of the audio here, and I hope you'll enjoy it. It's going to be very interesting. I'm going to do something a little different than what I've been doing here. First of all, I will be doing the kind of the news and current events type stuff, where I'll be doing stories on what's going on nowadays. But I'm going to have a whole section, each episode, dedicated to questions and answers. You'll be able to ask questions in the comment section of the video on Facebook, and I'll answer them. And if you're doing it live, I'll do my best to answer them live, and we'll take it from there. So there's actually more detail you can go to. I did a little video kind of announcing all of this and seeing how it's going to work. I will put the link in the description of this episode. So I hope this is going to work out. It seems pretty exciting to me, and I hope it's pretty exciting to you to engage more people in a discussion about the Constitution, which today I've got a kind of a thought experiment. It happened one day. I was watching a YouTube video with my wife, and there's this one gentleman I watch quite frequently, and he brought up something that was interesting. He actually did a video on the game of Monopoly. And what really caught my interest was apparently most people play the game of Monopoly wrong. You see, Hasbro, the company that actually makes the game Monopoly, includes in each and every box a copy of the rules. But they get thousands of questions every year with these kind of odd variations. Is this the rule? Is that the rule? So they actually did a survey. They commissioned a survey, and they asked people about the game and how they play it, and they found that 68% of the people who play the game admitted they had never read the rules. And think about that. 68%, 2/3 of the people who play Monopoly have never actually read the rules for themselves. Now, here's the part that got me. Is that any different from the way we run this country? I mean, just like Monopoly, think of how many people actually bother to read the rules anymore. They just play the, quote, game of government the way they've been told. The first time you play Monopoly, most people apparently, somebody tells them how it's played and they play the game and that's just how they play it. And they never actually read the rules. And that's what we're doing with our nation. We've had generations of people who have never bothered to read the rules. They just play the game the way they've been told it's supposed to be played. Now, if you do that with a game like Monopoly, maybe you have a boring game. Maybe the game takes longer than it otherwise normally would. But if you're quote unquote playing United States without following the rules, guess what happens? You lose your rights, you lose your freedoms, and it installs a tyrannical government. Our freedoms are gone, and we start living in subjugation to a government of whoever can convince the most people this is how you play the game. Think this is hyperbole? I've already documented in this several myths about the Constitution, rules that we play by that just are not in the rule book. Rules like all three branches of government are co-equal, that judges serve lifetime appointments, that the people elect the president. How could these fibs about the rules of our nation lead to tyranny? Well, let's take a look. See, the idea that all three branches of the federal government are equal makes a very important change of the way the game is played in Washington. See, the rule book, that pesky little thing called the Constitution, says that Congress is the most powerful. Most of the power delegated to the federal government goes to Congress. And the courts have the least. In fact, they have almost no real power at all. And the president, well, they've got, not only is he got more than the courts, but less than Congress, but his job is focused primarily on foreign affairs. He's representing the states to foreign nations, either militarily or diplomatically. You look at that, the powers of the president, that's what they're most focused on. So what happens when we treat all these three branches as equal? Well, you see, then we have court opinions being called, quote, the law of the land, even though courts aren't executive. They're forbidden from making law. We also have courts ordering executive and sometimes even the legislative branches to do things when they have no authority to do so. Look at things like we have the president making budgets and tax plans and spending policies. That's not the president's job. The president has no authority to create a budget, to create tax plans. He can't even spend money except what Congress has appropriated. And he's not there to create policy. He's there to negotiate. He's the point person to negotiate with foreign entities, but he has no role in policy, at least according to the rules. And worst of all, the branch of government that represents the people of the United States, the branch that's supposed to be most powerful, the branch that's supposed to oversee and overlook the other branches, does almost nothing to control those other two branches. They're specifically given the power to oversee the executive and the judicial branch. They have the power to impeach judges who misbehave. They have the power to impeach not just the president, but any federal officer that commits what's called a high crime or misdemeanor. Guess what? A high crime or misdemeanor is just about any crime. And if you swear an oath and you violate it, is that not perjury, which is a crime? You see, we've lost all of the controls on Washington because everybody believes that Congress is exactly equal with the president and the courts, and Congress can't tell them what to do when that's exactly their role. Congress says what the military can and cannot do, and the president is required to follow that. Congress creates the law, and the president is required to faithfully execute the laws. Not maybe, not want to, not prosecutorial discretion. He is required to faithfully execute the laws. The courts are required to try cases based on the Constitution. It is the supreme law of the land. But we don't bother. Why? Well, because nobody bothers to read the rule book anymore. Politicians don't read the rule book. Judges and lawyers don't read the rule book. We don't read the rule book. So why are we surprised when no one bothers following the rules? See, what it really means is we are no longer a nation of laws. We are a nation that's ruled by an oligarchy of kings and queens in black robes. We've literally flipped everything upside down. The branch that's supposed to be the least powerful has now become the most powerful. They dispense their laws, their opinion of law based on their opinion, and they disregard the rules, and they disregard our rights. So, something may be against the rules, but since nobody bothers to read them anymore, we all play the game wrong. Now, you say, well, there are powers the courts won't take from Congress, but that's only because our lords and masters have decided not to. It really is only the inertia of history that keeps the court in check, because Congress won't. See, the way the United States is run now, there is no power to prevent the court, the weakest branch of government, from doing whatever it wants. And since we don't know the rules, we don't know how to tell our elected representatives, those in the House and now those in the Senate, listen, you must obey the rules. You must hold them accountable. That's your job, because we haven't been taught that. See, while we're on the subject of the courts, where does this idea that a federal judge serves a lifetime appointment come from? It certainly isn't the rule book. Article 3, Section 1 clearly states the judges of both the superior and inferior courts shall hold their offices during good behavior. All federal judges hold their offices only during good behavior. Who determines what good behavior is? Congress. The House of Representatives, the representatives of the people, decide whether they believe the actions of a judge is good behavior or not. If not, they do what's called an impeachment. That impeachment is sent to the Senate, the representatives of the states, and they try the case. They determine, has the judge violated the standards of good behavior? If the Senate determines that the judge's behavior is not good, then they convict on the impeachment, and the judge is removed from office and barred from holding an office in the federal government ever again. This fabricated rule that judges serve lifetime appointments removes that critical check that Congress has over the unelected judiciary. It moves the balance of power from the elected representatives to the unaccountable branch of unelected judges. Do you want your life in the hands of a branch of government not accountable to the people of the United States of America? This is called an oligarchy, and by its very definition is a tyrannical form of government. The last fib I'll cover this afternoon is the idea that the people elect the president. I know. Every 4 years you vote and you think you're voting for president. But if you look closely at your ballot, you'll see what you're actually voting for are electors who vote for the president. And every 4 years, there's another call to abolish the Electoral College in favor of a popular vote for president. All because we think the people vote for president, and the president is the head of the country, and the president represents us. All because we're ignorant. We haven't read the rules. The states elect the president, and they do so for some really, really, really good reasons. The president represents the states, not the people. The president is not the head of the federal government. I've already said most of the power exists in Congress. This violation of the rules has led generations to believe that the president is there to provide for you. He's generally there to implement whatever the people want. However, a quick look at the rulebook shows that the only things the president is allowed to be involved in is representing the states in these foreign affairs and heading the military in war. Placing the power we have been taught the president has in a single person creates not a president, but a king. A king that can dictate policy, create law, spend money, and go to war, all without the representatives of the people or the states. Now do you understand why it was so dangerous when President Obama said he had a pen and a phone? Because the whole idea of what was to stop him from doing whatever he wanted was Congress, who right now are either too ignorant, too lazy, or both to actually do their job. A president that can dictate policy, create law, spend money, that's a king. Does that not sound like a tyrant? If you wonder why Washington is such a mess, why Congress is so dysfunctional, why the president is so polarizing, why the courts are clogged, and why the bureaucracy is feared, It's because we are playing the game of the United States without following the rules. And since we play by made-up rules, we now have a situation where the people fear their government. They fear what it can do and are often unsure if it will protect their rights or not. See, according to Thomas Jefferson, that is the state of tyranny. Quote, when governments fear the people, there is liberty. When the people fear the government, that is tyranny. When was the last time you picked up the rule book for the United States of America? How long will you continue to play by the wrong rules and continue to head us further down towards tyranny? And remember, this is not simply a tyranny that you will live with. This is a tyranny you are passing on to your children and your grandchildren. And right now, the only thing restricting Congress, the president, and the courts, as I said, is this inertia of history, this tradition we've grown up with. How long before they figure out, you know what? We can do whatever we please and no one's going to do anything about it. How long before they say, you know what? You're not allowed to speak anymore. There are certain things you can't talk about. Oh, you mean like you can't talk about things before an election? How long before they say, Facebook, Twitter, we're going to control what you can and cannot be said on your platforms? The government will. How long before you're going to need permission from the government to assemble? Yeah, you sort of do unless you're in the right political party or the right special interest group. Then you don't need to worry about those things because no one bothers enforcing the laws against them anyway. Against riots, against unpeaceable, violent assemblies. See, we're living in a mess, folks, because we haven't read the rules. And that's what the Constitution Study is here to do, is to help everyday Americans read and study their Constitution, understand the rules so they know how to play the game properly. It's not really a game, but we're treating it like such. We're treating it like it doesn't matter what the rules are. Now, I'm hoping 2019 includes some really interesting things. As I said, we're going to have the Facebook Live events once a month. And who knows, if things go well, we get a lot of attendance, maybe we'll do more. We're looking for questions, not just on the website. Yes, head over to constitutionstudy.com. Always, you can ask a question there, and I'll try to answer it. But I'm looking for a lot of interaction, hopefully, on the live stream event of questions and answers and getting people thinking. I'm working on a couple of face-to-face speaking engagements. I'm going to be in Nashville in end of March. I'll have more details. You can find actually more details on the website. There's a homeschool convention, the Teach Them Diligently Homeschool Convention. I'll have a booth. Hopefully I'll have a speaking engagement. I hope you'll come and see me then. Most of all, I really hope this made you think. I hope something in what I was discussing caught your attention maybe a different way. That, maybe reading the Constitution is more than just something we were supposed to do in school. Maybe understanding it is more important than some checkbox that said, yeah, I did this, like, jury duty. Hopefully it made you think that maybe if we played the United States by the rules, maybe our freedoms and liberties wouldn't be in such dire situation. Maybe our children would grow up in a land at least as free as the one we inherited. Hopefully one that's freer, and hopefully one that can be freer still. I keep saying hope because that's why I do this. I've learned a lot and I've engaged a lot, and I'm really excited about the idea of sharing this, and I'm hoping I'm making an impact on your life. If I am, please let me know. It is an encouragement whenever I hear from somebody. And it helps keep me going as I'm doing this work. I hope you had a wonderful 2018. I pray that your 2019 is a blessed one as well. And I hope to see you the next time on the Constitution Study. Thank you.